Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make double cloud cover. This is a really pretty intricate little chain. It has a lot of flow to it, so this would make a great necklace chain. It only uses one size of jump ring, so this is a really easy one to buy supplies for and make whatever you'd like. You can see it's made in little parts. You see my little purple part here, or actually I'll show you with this one. You see the fuchsia piece and then the teal piece. Okay, so you can make these into pieces, makes beautiful earrings. Something else I want to point out about this though is that you are seeing one side of this, and that's where the pink and the teal rings come in towards each other. And on the back side, this is going to be slightly different. The rings are going to point out on the back side. So there's two different sides to this, so just be aware of that when you decide to use it. But it's really a beautiful chain, and I wanted to point out that this is a good first step to introduce yourself to Barris weaves. The technique that I'm going to show you is how I approach the Viper Barris, whether it be regular or kinged, and we're doing it in just little bits. We're actually not crossing our rings into each other in a basket weave. We're just kind of going through the individual first steps that I would take towards a Barris. So this is an excellent training chain to learn before you step up to the next harder increment of chain making. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get this double cloud cover started. I want to start this. I'm always going to work off a paper clip, and you'll see why with this. But you can also work off of if you're going to put a lobster claw on one end for your clasp, you can always work off of that too. It doesn't matter. What's important with this weave is to have something that you're hanging your rings off of. Okay, so you see I put two closed ones, and the reason I did that was because now I'm going to take two open ones, and as I add each of these, I'm going to add two closed ones. I'm just making a 2x2 chain. Okay, so I went ahead and pre-closed a bunch. It goes faster that way, especially for the video. Okay, so I gotta get that one in the middle. So we have 3 rows of 2 now. Okay, and for this last one, if I was working along right now, I probably would have added an additional row, but because I want this at 4 rows, I'm going to go ahead and just do it this way. Just add 2 by hand so that you can see me start this with the 4 rows that we want to have on here. So whatever it takes to get you to a 2x2 chain that's 4 rows long is what you're gonna do. Okay, so we have this. Now what I want to do at this point is I want to kind of establish how this is sitting and facing me, okay, because that's gonna actually matter. So you see that these 2 rings at the top are sitting vertical, the next ones are horizontal, the next ones are vertical, the next ones are horizontal. Okay, and there actually will be a front and back side to this, so you want to be careful. So I noticed that like the outer part of my paper clip is sticking towards me. I might want to keep that in mind too as I go forward, just so that I can kind of keep track of where I am with this weave. Okay, so what we're gonna do is for the first row that we're adding, I'm going to add this really pretty dragon fruit, I believe it's called. And the dragon fruit rings, they're a hot pink, And I've also got a teal here. So we've got matte gold going on the base row, and that's it's nice to have the matte and the shiny because they really pop off each other, but these are really vivid, bright colors. So that's gonna help you to see this. Okay, so the first thing I wanna do is I'm going to take this first pink ring and I'm gonna slide it through from right to left, okay? And then I want it to come back up through this very first pair that's attached to the paper clip, and it's also going to go from right to left. Okay, so sliding it this way and then allowing things to kind of curl around so that I can get this through right to left. So let's go ahead and do that, and you can see how this works. So you do have to, the first row is going to be the hardest because we don't have much chain on here to work with. Hardest for you to see too, but I want you to see I'm going from right to left through here, okay? And then I'm coming up here and I'm gonna actually let my paper clip turn, okay? So I can go right to left. So it looks like left to right because I'm on the back side, but that from the front would have been right to left, okay? And we'll close this ring. And I'll let you see what happened there. So you notice why I told you pay attention to your paper clip and how things are laying and if they're laying right. Okay. So see how that took this and kind of folded this pair up together. Okay. So you can see that that's hanging over on the right side now. Now the second one's a little bit easier. I'm gonna go from right to left, but I'm just gonna hook up into that top one. I'm just doubling this now, okay? So I'm just trying to follow the same path as that first one did. So this time I can just kind of pass through, and I want to make sure these don't cross through each other, and I'm gonna, well, come on. My hands aren't working well with fussy today, apparently. Okay, so I'm gonna let this front part of this jump ring slide through the back of this, okay? So that one just has to mimic the first one. The first one's the hardest to do. And once this pattern starts getting established, this does get a little bit easier. But you see that I'm on the back side when I'm closing this. Okay. All right, so we've got our first two. Yay. Okay. So you can see now that my my other rings are kind of folding, you know, this pair and this pair kind of look like they're sitting on the left side now. Okay, so I'm going to now address those. The other way I can look at this is I can actually physically turn this onto the back, okay? And then the way I want to look at it, I'm still going to use the pink, but I can look at it through, I'm going from right to left and then up through this pair that's above it, from left to right. Okay, so you can see this is a little bit more complicated stuff than our very beginner weaves, and I like this double cloud cover just because it's a good first approach to doing Viper Barris type patterns. Okay, this one's going to help you kind of understand it without having that whole basket weave thing going on in every row, because this double cloud cover is kind of the same thing, it just compartmentalizes. It's a little bit more broken out. It is a Viper Barris, but there's going to be one row in between each of these little links that we're creating. And so you know, you really are learning to do a Viper Barris here. It's just that you're learning it kind of in little compartments. Okay, so you're doing little pieces. Okay, so see that? So you have one unit of double cloud cover there. The other thing I want to mention here too is we're using of course 20 gauge 5/32 jump rings. Okay, and when I tried to do a kinged Viper Barris in this size, it was just a hair too small. So that's the other reason, if that's what size jump rings you have and what size jump rings you want to use, then you're definitely kind of solving a problem by going with the double cloud cover as opposed to a Viper Barris, because the Viper Barris you're not going to get very far and it's going to become too tight. Okay, so now we want to get to where we were when we started this paper clip. So we want 4 rows of 2x2 chain hanging off the bottom. So I'm just going to shoot through. I can clearly see that these gold ones are my bottom. And like I said, I closed a bunch of rings before I started to make this part go a little faster, so you didn't have to sit here and watch me do 4 rows of 2x2 chain, because I can accomplish 2 rows of that at a time. Okay, so now I've got 2 rows of 2x2 hanging off the bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll have 2 open ones and 2 closed ones. So I'll put those closed ones on the first open one. And then the next open one is going to pass through this pair and this pair here. Okay, so 4 more rows of 2x2 chain. Okay, now let's get this back to the front again. Okay, and if you remember from before, that what we were doing was we went from right to left through this third pair down. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So right to left through here, and then we're going to go right to left through here too. And we're going to accomplish that by spinning it to the back side. So once we get through these first 2, I'm going to turn my paper clip this way to the left, okay? And I guess you would call that clockwise, but I don't want it to get confusing for you. Okay, so we're going to turn our paper clip so that this can go through the back side in the correct pathway. Okay, so right to left from here, and then I'm turning my paper clip so that I can get into these 2 in the correct direction. So you're just turning that to the back side to accomplish that. Okay, see how that looks exactly the same? Let's make sure I have it on the front side. Okay, see how that looks exactly the same as when we were starting this one up here? So we're just mimicking our actions now. So now if you'll remember, we just added a second one to this, and that's going to be a little bit easier, but I think I'm going to go back to front and then let this second one's always real easy. It's that making sure you get that first one right that makes the big difference. Okay. Okay, so if you remember from the last step, we're going to join these 2 pairs together that are on the left. So in order to do that, the easiest way, I'm going to turn it to the back side. Okay, and I'm going to take my teal and pass it from right to left, and then let it come through. The other one, because these are now on the right side, let it come through from left to right, or from back to front, really. And we're working on the back side here. Get this paper clip out of the way. Boy, that just does not want to go through there. Let me get a different one. I think my jump ring wasn't just wasn't open quite enough, so let me get one that's open a little wider. There we go. Okay, just didn't want to go around those two. I didn't have it open quite enough. Okay, so now we have one of these. And turn this back to the front again. Okay, you can see how that picked that up. Much easier to get this second one though from the back side. Okay, you can see it can go through here and back over to here. Okay, and that's the second one. All right, so we've got these two colors alternating. Our base is this beautiful matte gold. Almost looks like a mustard color. It's just so pretty. And then we're gonna come back again, and we're going to add 4 double rows of the matte gold, and then we're gonna go back to our fuchsia again. Okay, so that's all there is to it. But you can see why I want this draping off a paper clip. It makes it much easier to let it hang down, and then, you know, come in and you know, figure out how to get through the rings by just turning your row that is hanging and making sure you're going in and out of each ring in the proper direction. Okay, and then like I said, this is really almost Viper Barris, and the only difference is where you see it right here and right here. Had we been doing Viper Barris, this pair of rings would have swung up here. We would have been consistently doing the back and forth crosshatch, and these highlight rings would have been linked together in a basket weave. But for double cloud cover, we've just got our little highlight rings that lean, and it does look a little bit different on the back side because you see that they kind of fold outward on the front, and what you should see on the back is that they fold inward towards one another. Okay, so these are going to be look opposite on back and front, but because it's consistent the whole way through, if you're making a bracelet out of this, which is what we're doing today, you know, if it gets flipped onto the back side, it really doesn't matter too much because it's still just an absolutely beautiful pattern. So I hope you've kind of gotten the hang of this. If not, back up on the video and see how to do those first couple steps again, and I'll be back when I'm ready to put a clasp on this. Okay, so I'm back, and as you can see, this chain has been completed. Isn't it pretty? I just love, you know, the patterning in this. It almost looks like ribbons or something. It's really an attractive pattern. So to finish this off, very simple. I do use a smaller size jump ring. I'm using 20 gauge 1/8, and just very simply, you know, just as you were adding 2x2s before, you just add the smaller rings to the ends. Add your lobster clasp. So I got one there. If you can fit 2 with the clasps you're using, do. I don't think there's enough room on this side to do that. So I'm gonna leave this at just 1 jump ring. Wherever you can add sturdiness, always do so. Okay, so see that? And then on the other end, of course, I'm gonna need to take my paper clip off. Part of the reason I use paper clips is you can just slide it right off. And on this side, I'm gonna add 2, because I'm gonna add a jump ring, which will serve as a loop for my lobster clasp to attach to. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and then I'm going to use a 18 gauge 5/32 jump ring on the end, which is the smallest jump rings I have in 18 gauge. And I like to up the gauge on this just so that this end ring is a little bit thicker and sturdier. You don't have to. You could always use one of the 20 gauge 5/32 you've been using in the project, but you can see that's a little bit thicker. Makes it a little bit more obvious that that's the end piece. And a little sturdier on the end. Okay, so that is all there is to it. Okay, and now we have a finished bracelet. Okay, so practice, practice, practice at that one. And then, like I said, this one is going to lead us into the Viper of Barris. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. Please be sure to like and follow me on YouTube, and keep in mind that the supplies or kits for this item will be at beadmeastory.com. Thanks so much.